What day is it? It must be Saturday. I got my Fiat sleepy bugs are still here.
Mine too.
I literally have sleepy bugs right now. Not that I was up late. It's just that waking up has been slow.
Yeah, took me a minute today too. Crikey, trying something different with the camera here because we've been recording the river.
Looks beautiful.
River FM.
Sounds like, who knows?
We'll see what happens with this. But I think River is like stepping on our footage somehow. Because this looks really nice on the phone. This is a phone, by the way.
Yeah.
For those who don't know. Hey, I wanted to give a shout out to Gary73528. Glad you enjoyed the video. Awesome that you're watching. Appreciate it.
We got a great comment for you. Working on the audio.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
3 more episodes.
Great audio.
Yeah, theoretically.
We're going to have some big black things hanging in front of us, and we're going to...
Easy there,
I mean, when I was listening to another podcast, I discovered this new podcast called Acquired, which it's been... They're hugely successful. I'm like, what did they do? And they've got great equipment, crisp, beautiful, very simple. All they do is... They used to do recording like face-to-face talking and did some editing with their, how do they look? And as they've gotten really, really popular, they've really moved on to just audio. They focus on the audio. And I think what they probably found is that people aren't sitting there watching their faces talk to each other.
Right.
They're like wanting to hear the content because what they focus on really is that continuous, detailed, interesting story and content as a podcast.
Oh.
They really focus on the audio. And they also started like 8 years ago.
Right. Yeah. So that's a good start. We have a difference. So we have very beautiful faces.
Yeah.
So people absolutely are drawn to our content.
It is worth watching just because you're like, I want to also enjoy the charming men making the noise.
Yes.
So
let's see these beautiful men.
Anyway,
thank you, Gary7. I appreciate it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, great comments. We get some good feedback, and sometimes every once in a while it's audio sucks, and we go, yeah, we know.
We know. We're trying. I think River might be screwing with that, too. We'll find out here.
We'll find out.
I bet you $5 when we play this back, it's going to be all blown out and way too loud. Just be like, oops.
Every podcast publish is kind of like a validating an experiment. Like, what happened there?
Right.
And, oh, that worked. Why did that work?
Yeah.
Or that didn't work. It still didn't work.
Yeah.
Why? Anyway.
Well, last week's little fluke, like we had left a camera stand somewhere. Not we. Someone.
I left it
sitting here
in another car.
But nevertheless, we ended up like tying the stupid camera to the stand got the little light thing on it. Now we're kind of like, I think this looks better.
Yeah, this is easy, simple.
Yeah.
And if this works, now audio aside, we're going to do the audio, but if this works for video, I think we can do it this way.
It's looking pretty saucy to me.
Nice.
I'm pretty pleased. Anyway, did you see what happened to Simply Bitcoin TV?
YouTuber shut down.
They fucking banned them, man. Just straight up.
I haven't had time to really look into, like, was this a mistake? Because I thought I saw one comment from, like, YouTube team saying, oh, we're going to look into this. And then I checked, and they were still banned. And it's like, are you fucking shitting me?
Yeah, they got the ban hammer for violating their policies against, I can't remember, it was like violence or some crazy, I mean, it was just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It sounded like their generic community guidelines.
Yeah.
Like, the guy himself was saying, I don't know what it was. It's community guidelines.
Well, no, he posted the thing from YouTube. He had the little email from him, and then he highlighted the part, like, it was something about, like, violence or...
Violence?
It was some, I can't remember exactly what harmful content they were supposedly getting rung up on. But these, I mean, if you've ever seen their show, you're just like, what are you... What?
I know. Do they get into, like, I don't know. I'm trying to imagine what they would have said, because it's always so Bitcoin.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like what we're saying, what I say, Christ, oh my God.
Well, we curse, or you have a political opinion, and if someone was offended by that, and they're a special class of something, is my opinion about something unrelated, but may involve someone who could be offended and then identifies as something, am I murdering them? I think in today's day and age, it's a possibility.
Murdering them?
Emotionally murdering them.
Oh, emotionally.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
If you emotionally murder something, they can't get out of bed for the rest of their life. That is murder.
Right.
So I don't know the difference anymore between...
There is none functionally.
Committing murder on YouTube and being banned versus saying, yeah, have you heard about what's going on in Britain lately? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that whole British thing. Fuck those people. I mean, not fuck.
So it's
I love England. I love the United Kingdom. I lived there for a year. I went to school there. One of the best institutions on planet Earth. An amazing experience. I loved every second that I spent over there. And seeing what's happened to them with this draconian sort of nonsense that they're gonna issue warrants. They're gonna come chase after us for saying something, like posting footage of riots and whatnot. It's just like, what on earth is going on over there?
well, if you can ban simply Bitcoin, I feel like I was having some really negative thoughts for recently. I had a long drive the last couple of days, and I was during the drive too. I'm listening to stuff and thinking about some of this, and I was getting just really surly because, just the march of communism, the crackdown on independent thinking, First Amendment. Just watch what you say.
Yeah.
You have the First Amendment. Yay! Just watch what you say.
Exactly.
You
rabble rouser.
whatever you may be, that we'll just figure out when we need to.
Right.
And so it's like you can say, man, fuck the British. You just committed cultural genocide on those people.
Right.
No, I didn't. I had an opinion. Same thing.
Yeah.
So I was feeling those things.
Oh, were you? How did it manifest?
Did you
like
road
this
rage? Right now?
Did you road rage in your Tesla? Start
Most
driving
men
over?
live lives of quiet desperation, and so I had a slight smile on my face as I drove nice and careful, and inside I'm just like
Seething. You getting all Michael Douglas on us, man? He's about to go falling down on us.
falling down.
And I'm a good guy. He's shooting up phone booths and shit like that.
I
just wanna go home. I just want to go home.
I'm just trying to get home. And that plays into the mechanism that is upon us in the Matrix. Is I can see that people pulling levers are like, why are not more people falling down out there? We need some distraction, people.
Yeah.
We keep kind of getting along because we're just that nice and human.
Yeah.
And it's like it's sort of like, let's see how they handle this heat on the water and the pot and the boiling pot. And it's like the frogs are still kind of getting along, and it's like, what do we need to do to get these people more pissed off at each other? Not that it's not fairly successful, but
Well, I mean, people are angry like online. I mean, that's the thing about it is like if you go out in the real world and you just walk down the street, like we all work with each other in the real world. Like there's no one, like I don't go to the office and go, you fucking communist piece of shit. Like, I mean, all the stuff, all that vitriol you see online, like just sort of evaporates in person because the person you're talking to is not, whatever shit you're building up in your head. I mean, these algorithms, just FYI, the most powerful emotion in a human being is disgust. And that is related to like, oh, I just ate something and it's disgusting. You want to get rid of it because it's toxic to the system. The problem that we have is that your limbic system, your little brain chemicals can start tricking you, and they can invoke that sense of disgust, that same sense with people, and you can hijack that, and it's a real simple lever to push. But what they found out with those algorithms is if you just push that button enough, people that get disgusted keep coming back, and they just want to feel that, like, I'm sick to my stomach. Have you ever heard someone say that? This makes me sick to my stomach. Somebody beating somebody up or whatever it is. That's that disgust mechanism, but it's hugely profitable. So,
you don't avoid it. You can't not watch a train wreck.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, that train wreck.
Yeah.
Well, let me see that again. Oh, God.
Yeah. So they amplify disgust 100%. So, and that's the thing, like I continually remind myself, like, because I'll see, because it hits me, I know better, and I'm still, that's fucking disgusting. Wait, chill out, buddy. That's the robot just going, boop, 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 just pushing your buttons. So,
have you caught yourself where I often have habits online or whatever. Well, like when X, after a video plays, and it used to either kind of like stop or just repeat, and I could just watch it again, and now it just goes on to something else.
Oh, that drives me bonkers.
So it goes to some other video, and I kind of have an internal rule, like I am not going to watch what I'm being fed. I'm going to get out and then seek it myself.
Yeah.
And then there will be a video that I can't not watch, and when it's something like a schoolyard fight, and you kind of just want to see if the kid gets it in the nose.
Yeah.
and so I'll find myself watching one, and then when it goes to a third one, I'm like, stop, especially if I'm feeling something about it, because it gets you.
Yeah.
If I see, I mean, I've seen my share, but you see like kids huddling around and they're going to fight. I can't not watch that. I have to watch it.
It's like, all right, let's see what's going on.
I don't know who these people are or where they are or what it's about. I'm sure it's totally stupid. And I just want to see if somebody gets hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a morbid thing.
Anyway, I have to manually back myself out and say, no, back to whatever high-minded thing I was actually.
Well, you know, that the cool thing about X, not cool, I mean, it's actually kind of insidious what they're doing, but that little scrolling thing, that's to increase their engagement metrics. I mean, all that, it's all about numbers for them. Like, they don't give a shit about what you think, who you are, what you're doing, what you watch, what you don't watch. They would put anything up there that didn't get them in trouble. Like, they would not give a shit. They would prioritize beheadings, ISIS videos, child porn. They would just let it just run wild if they could get away with it, because they would make nearly infinite amounts of money by doing that. But, you know, we have guardrails in place for all those people that hate the three-letter agencies. There's a reason they exist on some level, because they try and stop people from sharing shit like that, which I don't think is healthy for, like, some kid to watch an ISIS beheading video, because that's not great for your 6-year-old to be like, oh, look, Barney, and then, because it's traumatizing, right? You don't want to see that kind of stuff. So the thing being is, at the end of the day, if they can scroll that video to the next thing, just automatically, they can count that as a view, despite the fact that you're going to swipe right back down and go, hey, I wanted to watch that video again because I missed something, or whatever it is. So they're just inflating their numbers. I see people bitch all the time. How come there's so many bots on here? How come, if Elon Musk wanted to, I thought he was going to fix the bots. If you go read the court papers from when he was buying Twitter and then tried to get out of it, one of the things he cited was like, hey, most of the traffic on here is bots. It's all bullshit. So why am I paying this inflated price for this bot-driven traffic? And then sure as shit, once they said, no, well, you kind of agreed to this, you better go ahead and pony up, buddy. And so he hops on the platform, and next thing you know, what happens? Just zero discussion about bot traffic. Because why? Because that's the business model with X. If you got rid of the bots on X tomorrow, like just waved a wand, like follower counts would drop to almost nothing. The engagement rate on Twitter would drop to probably 30% of what it is right now, is my guess. I'm just throwing fucking numbers out. I don't know. But it's going to drop a ton, and then the valuation of Twitter goes into the toilet. So that's 1, 2, 3 punch. So you're not getting rid of bots on X. It's not going to happen. Like,
at one time, Musk was kind of like, we can solve this problem. We can just, have you tried calling it?
Easiest goddamn thing in the world to fix.
And you could. And then it hasn't really been apparently a priority. I'm still seeing bots everywhere.
No, it's the opposite of a priority. It's a business reality. It's a business necessity.
I like having so many followers and not wondering who's real.
I know. I mean, I have never
cute chicks. Hey.
Oh my God, yeah, dude! I have so many like hot Asian and like Eastern European chicks that follow me. They just love my content. Oh, it's amazing. They sometimes reach out to me. They want to get in some business partnerships. They want to see if we can exchange ideas.
You can make gold futures. You use Ethereum to get some gold futures, but you make money.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Did you see that there was a headline yesterday?
Just beautiful. I'm such an attractive man. I had no idea until I got on X.
A pig to be butchered. I would be. There was a headline on I guess it was a couple days ago. The head of a bank in Kansas got caught in a pig butchering scam and was putting money into Ethereum initially himself, but it ended up being like, God, $25-30 million that he sent off to Hong Kong or something.
Was it state money or was it his money?
A little was his.
Oopsie daisy. Oops.
Oops. It's like, oh shit, I'm 5,000 in the hole. Well, I can take money from like this board and this nonprofit to cover it, and I'll get it back. Oh no, actually, I need $1 million to get my money back because this hot chick financial advisor was making me rich. I can see the number right here. I got to unlock it because I must have done something wrong. Okay, well, if I pony up $1 million, I'll get it back. And I made $3 million. Wow. Oh wait, something happened. A month goes by. you need 12 million. We need 12 million from it.
Yeah.
You starts with greed, then you get hooked into the fear and oh shit, and you're kind of then trying to get it back or keep up, or you could also still make money. You believe it's real.
You may consider explaining what a pig butchering scam is.
If you hadn't heard of a pig butchering scam, so basically, it's actually a word. It's a Chinese word because a lot of these originate out of China, and they've moved with some crackdowns, moved out of China into like Vietnam, Thailand, Korea, maybe into the southeast. But
they make it look like you got money, but you don't.
They find you online. They look for people, usually older white guys and people who lonely. Actually, they really feed off loneliness. People who want a friend. You get I want friends. Like all of you do. You probably have 100 followers that if you looked at their profile, they're bots who are hot chicks.
Wait, those are bots?
They're all bots. They're all bots.
Damn it.
Even ones that like, oh, Lynn Alden followed me? And then,
13 Lynn Alden
that's not an L, that's a capital I or whatever. Lena Sici, no. Dang it, it's something else. I wish. These bots, which are backed by people who actually, these people often even work in these sweatshops under duress with 10 cell phones and a master in like a boiler room. And it's like, you are fucking calling these stupid fat pig Americans all day, every day. You sleep when you're told. You're fed just fine, but you cannot leave this compound. And here's your 12 phones, and you work through your pigs.
Yeah.
It's a Chinese word. They're butchering pigs. And from snout to tail, they're going to butcher all of you. So even when they kind of get the tip of your nose off and you're like, they use all this kind of psychology and all these scripts to keep you on the hook any way they can. It can be apologetic. It can be like, oh, what did you do? It can be shaming. Like, did you follow the instructions?
Give them the core mechanism, though, because you're explaining really well what the term means.
So, like, you
make phone call, a family die.
It's often someone, an actress who speaks pretty decent English, is lonely, got divorced, has a rich uncle, invests in gold, doesn't know how it works, but she's made a lot of money. I like you. You deserve to make money too. And actually, we're friends. I've always wanted kids. I'm divorced now. Dang, men. I wish I had a stable, mature man like you. But well, someday we'll meet, I'm sure. Anyway, it's a romance scam oftentimes as well. They pull you in. It starts with something as stupid as hey, can you still pick me up at the airport? Or hey, James, can you meet me at noon still? Or whatever it is. Something like clearly wrong number. And just by replying, saying, sorry, wrong number. And then it goes into, oh, is this not James? My name is Melinda. And the little TMI. And anyone who's a little lonely, or when it comes through and their little icon for their face is like a hot chick, and you're just inclined to reply at all, it starts reeling you in like, this is a real person. Oh, it's a girl. Oh, she's telling me a little bit about herself. She sounds really sociable and even flirty. Next thing you know, she kind of likes me.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, like, we are probably going to meet at some point. I think we might be dating. I don't know. She loves me. Now, that's the romance scam of it all.
Right.
There's the other greed side of it where it's like, oh, you seem smart. I make a lot of money. My uncle, my whole family, they make a lot of money. Big mansions in Hong Kong. Hey, here's a picture. Oh, hey, here's me in front of a jet. Hey, look at my condo. Oh, here's me in front of my Lambo. And they are real people in front of real things, apparently.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And it builds and builds. This lady is rich. And she
really
friends,
likes me.
And she might really like me. And you want to make money too, right? Wouldn't you like more money? I just do what my uncle says. I don't know it all, but I'll just tell you what I do.
Yeah.
Sure.
Send some money to this website. Look at this number going up. See your investment going up? It's going up and up and up. Oh, but in order to get it out, you got to get this. You got to add a little more. And then, meanwhile, they're just siphoning all the money, and then they're making this little number go.
Yeah.
on your balance sheet on your website, and then one day you realize you've been taken for. I mean, they'll just bleed you dry, literally, like hanging out by your feet, and you're just in there.
Sometimes they'll actually send you a little money back, like your number goes up on a fake app that you downloaded that seems legit, but it's giving you fake numbers.
Right.
And you literally bought ETH and sent it to some address, and it's gone, but your account shows gains, even double, triple gains.
Right.
And you're like, and the person is telling you, see what you could do with $300? Try 1,000.
Yeah.
I do 1 million, but that's good.
But I got money.
I did this long enough, and I'm rich now.
Yeah.
I know you only do 500, but you could always do more. See what it did?
Yeah.
And you do a little more, and the gains go up. And then you're like, maybe it's your greed or your apprehension, cold feet, and you want to cash out a little bit. They might actually send you some money back.
Oh, yeah, they'll let you cash out.
Yeah. So they're kind of like, whoop, oh, here you go. Come on, fishy, woo!
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's just like giving you more line on a fish hook. But...
And then one person I know who got caught up in one of these.
You know somebody who got caught? People are
shouldn't even say.
Dumb, man. Oh, my God.
Old, white, lonely men.
Nah, just people in general.
And probably
most people can't figure out a fucking toaster, let's be honest.
My anecdote is it's probably the blinking 12 on the VCR person, and they believed for months. That was another thing. I could not believe how long the bot people invested in a victim. Months of occasional, throughout the day, backing off a bit, kind of reeling in the psychology of romance and greed. Months later, getting a little more, and then number goes up, and you need a little cash. Yeah, no, it's real. No, don't take it all out. Look at the numbers, you know.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't give it to you if you pull out that way.
Oh, you can't. Yeah, you
don't get it back.
You're never getting.
You never get it back.
You might be able to cash out $100 or something just to prove that you can get your money, but
yeah. So
once the little greed hook gets, you're gone.
At one point, he was like, "No, I want out. At least prove it's real enough. Send me a wire from what you're saying is real to my bank. Right. Send me a wire." They sent him a picture of a wire that was literally from Bank of America, and it was a wire transfer sheet, but it was all faked.
Right.
But he gets it. Oh, well, yeah, they're wiring me money. A couple days later, well, I haven't seen the money. These are kind of instant, aren't they?
Yeah.
You wired me the money, right? Yeah, no, we sent it.
Maybe you had our account number wrong.
Check with your bank. It's probably on your end. No, we sent it. But they just know where you're going.
Yeah.
He drove to the bank and talked to the bank manager, by golly, because we're going to get to the bottom of this. And the bank manager looks at the wire transfer fakery and says, "This is a fake wire transfer. This is a scam." What? No.
Can't be a scam. I'm too smart to get scammed.
So this bank manager in Kansas, he got sentenced to 24 years in prison.
Oops.
For defrauding a bunch of, account holders and like the board and other nonprofits or something that he had pulled money out of that he had access to send millions and millions of dollars to Ethereum bot land.
Yeah, some fucking, yeah.
And the judge himself was basically, the court was referring to this guy as like the big pig who got butchered, nose to snout.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Snout to tail.
Yeah.
He got totally butchered, so.
Slaughtered. Yeah. So here's, there's an old saying that says you can't cheat an honest man. And, to be fair, like, I'm vulnerable to this stuff. Like, I see these things. I'm like, oh my God, I can get free Bitcoin because Michael Saylor's giving it out? Wow, cool.
There's Michael Saylor saying, if you want to buy...
Yeah.
And I'm like...
But I mean,
I was like, what?
Those hooks sink in my mouth all the time. I'm always just like, this sounds like a good idea. Oh. I mean, I always have to catch myself on everything. So, I mean, so much so that it's now, like, even if I had a legitimate opportunity right in front of me, I'd just be like, go fuck yourself. Like, I don't even want to fucking talk to you. But, I mean, the thing is, you just got to be careful with this stuff. And the thing I would remind everybody, all 12 of you watching, is that it's really easy to get tripped up with this stuff. And people think that could never happen to me, even though I was just making fun of people. I'm telling you, it can happen to anybody. And my point is like, you know, we work in a correctional environment, some of us do, or we've been around correctional security, things like that. Every year, hundreds of thousands across the country, correctional employees get compromised and they bring in drugs for people and they start having sex with inmates and doing all kinds of crazy shit. I think there was one gal back in New York, a couple guys escaped, and then she got shot in the head for her trouble. Like, I mean, it's just, and people go, how could you ever do that? I would never do that. I would just point you to, just think, like, have you ever been dumped?
Sure.
Right. Do you remember what you felt like and what you were thinking like after you got dumped?
I was going to drive my car into the river, but...
Well, see, but, I mean, that starts sounding like a good idea, right? Like, you can start doing shit like, I know, I'm going to text her 4,000 times today because that'll fix this problem.
Please just respond to me.
Yeah. I mean, like, you can get pretty batshit crazy. I mean, people are throwing bricks through windows, and they'll show up at people's houses and show up at places of business. And in the moment, this all seems like a great idea. Like, you're literally sitting there going like, yes, this is what I must do.
And in the movie, holding the stereo seems quite romantic.
Right. All of a sudden, that's romantic. It doesn't occur to you in the moment that, wow, that's super creepy, dude. And you're probably violating a couple of laws right now, like stalking and harassment. But hey, you know, you remember the astronaut chick that was like wearing diapers and driving across the country? Yeah. This is a fucking astronaut. Yeah. I mean, the pinnacle of human achievement kind of thing.
Genius popped.
Genius level is literally driving across the country wearing a diaper so she can go and, you know, because she was scorned. Yeah. My point is when you are in a compromised state of mind, like you're having emotional difficulties, you just went through a divorce, you can start thinking all kinds of fucking stupid shit is a really good idea. That's why you got to be really careful with this stuff. So, and myself included. I mean, that's, you know, there's just as many fingers pointed back this way. I just, you know, I've had enough experience now to recognize, like, hey, sometimes you can be emotionally and cognitively impaired and not realize it. And so when you are in those throes of God knows what sort of emotional turmoil, don't make any big life-changing decisions because the chances are good you're making a bad one, is my 2 cents, my unasked for advice today.
And the hardest...
Satoshi's Militia, Bitcoin Liberty Live.
Yeah, this militia is going to fight for your freedoms.
Hey, don't say that, man. We're going to get banned.
Oh, God, we're going to get banned. That was violence right there. We're going
to get a ban hammer. Like, there's almost
we don't fight, we cower and plead for mercy. Tell us what to think.
Well, truly we do. I mean, let's be honest.
That's all we do, actually. I mean, all of my strong opinions, I wait to hear it first, and then I sleep on it, and the next morning, it was my idea.
They're incorporated.
And now, and thus on the show, I have all these thoughts and ideas that were mine, surely, that actually I'm just regurgitating. Yeah. We're just regurgitating puns and jokes and every opinion. There is no free will, actually.
I don't think there is, but that's a different story.
I agree. That's another long rabbit hole.
It's in the book. When my book is done, you can go read all about how free will is an illusion.
Believe you have it. Don't look behind the curtain. It's okay. It's okay.
There's so many curtains you don't want to peek behind. The second you do, it's like the whole world. We really are in the Matrix. It's absolutely insane.
If you peer into the void will peer into you.
Yes.
So just let it be. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay to let it be.
Yeah, sometimes, you know. Sometimes it's better. Like, what was the one guy? I just want to taste a steak.
Give me the blue pill.
Yeah. I'll just sit here.
I had that thought this morning where, moving on from pig butchering scams, I had a point about people who cannot decipher that kind of stuff.
Wait, there's a point to our show?
Well, so maybe it integrates with what we're about to say.
Check out these shoes, by the way.
Yeah,
awesome
they're
shoes.
Comfy.
$400 shoes right there.
Oh, leather.
Fucking fiat mindset.
But if they last, and
I don't think they last very well. They even say they don't last very well as they're selling them. But they're like a primal sort of flat foot, whatever kind of zero drop.
I don't mind. Like, I don't know. My shoes have gone up from buying them a few years ago for $150. Now they're like $250. Anyway,
Christ,
they're postal service walking shoes that are designed to make 5,000 miles or something.
And they're designed to make you look like an old fart.
And they make you look like an old cranky park at the cloud.
Get off my lawn. Anyway, you had a point.
True.
What were you going to say? I interrupted about my stupid fucking shoes. I don't mind spending a little
nice money on something that I know is quality and will last. I like my last pair of these shoes literally lasted me like 4 years. I wore them like every day.
Yeah.
Comfy, didn't fall apart. Just 4 years later, they're just shine them up.
Yeah.
Maybe they smelled a little bit. I put talcum powder in them. They
Good to go.
function.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I interrupted. That's my fault. So.
Speaking of boomer thoughts, I work and help people who, I don't know if it's a cultural, generational thing or if it's some sort of cognitive thing.
Oops, sorry.
They literally cannot, and they have all the traits of a victim. They're a pig just waiting to be butchered, like meh.
Yeah.
Because everything they do online, they fit the profile.
Yeah.
So they get attacked.
Yeah.
They've in fact responded to one or two before they figured it out. So they're like, this guy, pig in America, if anyone, hey, boiler room, heads up, if anyone can get Bob here,
he's
it's
vulnerable.
just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So they get call after.
You call Bob, or family die. You call all day, family die.
Accents are violence, okay?
Hey, I'm half Asian. I'm allowed to.
You are half Asian, so you can have accent.
You call now, a family die. I'm just going to keep repeating.
Is that your mom? Is this your mom have an accent?
Oh, yeah, thick one. I didn't even realize until I was a bit older. Like, people get to say your mom has a thick accent. I'm like, what accent? I didn't, because you grow up around it, you don't hear it, right? But, yeah, she's got an accent. Doesn't sound like that. She's never threatened to kill my family if I didn't make boiler room calls.
Yeah, I know.
I just think that shit's funny.
Anyway, so this guy I know and others, I know many people like this, they keep getting hit up and it'd be like, oh, that's annoying. Another call, like anonymous call, like just don't answer. Let it go to voicemail. Oh, Amazon keeps emailing me. Ignore the fucking thing.
Yeah.
They'll forward them to me or call me and say, hey, is this real or not? I realize these people are incapable of telling the difference between truth, like a scam,
and reality.
And Microsoft actually calling you to tell you your icons are missing, or you might need tech support, or there's a security concern. There's a security concern on your account. We need you to give us some information.
Yeah.
They can't tell the difference. I've told them repeatedly how to tell the difference and to not ever disclose certain information. When in doubt, just hang up on them.
Yeah.
Go to your account. Go log into your account.
Find out. Yeah.
Change your password. Just change your password. Log in. They have a customer service line if you want to waste your time. Yeah. Anyway, cannot figure it out. After many, many iterations of the same, like you're a pig, they're scamming you. This will go on for the rest of your life, Grandma. And they cannot tell why or...
But it's not just them. This is what, I had a friend a long time ago who went, and he had been driving like a 1989 Ford Ranger since he was in college, basically, right? And he was, at the time, this is probably in the early 2000s, so this truck is old. It's, it's not great to take like a date on. And he was a young man at the time. He said, man, I hate taking dates out in this thing. Like, it's embarrassing. I'm going to go buy a new car. So I was at work at the time. He calls me up and says, hey, man, I got this great deal on a Honda Civic. These guys are going to finance this. I'm going to get blah, 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 on and on and on. He had already been sold. He had had his pitch. He was sunk in, had his teeth in. So that sounds awesome, dude. This is what you should do right now. You should say, thank you very much. I'll come back tomorrow. And he went, what? What are you talking about? It's a one-time only deal and this and that. And I said, great. Well, it'll still be there tomorrow. Just say I need to sleep on it. Walk away. And he got so mad at me, like he was pissed. Like, why would you say that and this and that? I mean, like, furious. Because he's buying a fucking Civic. Like, it's this little piece of shit Honda, right? Like, nothing. Used Honda, I think. And all he had in his mind was, like, the illusion of what this is going to mean on his next date, right? Mm-hmm. People won't think he's poor anymore, even though he's poor, right? So he fussed with me. He called me back, like, 15 minutes later. And said, okay, the salesman said this, this, and this, and now they're going to do this, this, and this. And I said, that's awesome. Now go get in your car, drive away. Just come back tomorrow. If they got such a boner to sell it to you right now, they'll sell it to you tomorrow. I can't believe you fucking asshole. He was mad, dude. And I think it was a third call, I finally convinced him, look, dude, just walk away from it. Like, it's just a car. There are millions of cars available. Just walk away. And so he finally did. And then he called me from the road and said, I can't believe you did this. I'm going to lose this opportunity. Just pissed, furious, right? And then the next day I said, well, just call me tomorrow, dude. I get you're pissed. I don't blame you. Just call me tomorrow. And he called the next day and said, dude, thank you so much. for talking me out of that because I don't think I wanted that car. So yeah, I know. And he waited another 2 years, and they ended up buying a 4Runner, which is the thing he really wanted, that he had saved cash for, and just bought it outright.
Mm-hmm.
The point is the way people get manipulated ties into all of that kind of stuff. They are preying on your emotions, your vulnerabilities, and all that kind of stuff. And boomers are so accustomed to getting things for nothing that they cannot see past it because their whole life has been nothing but I get things for very little input. Yeah. So everything that comes along that looks like, hey, here's another way to get more things with very little input makes sense to them, and they can't see past it.
And they deserve it.
Right.
Or, I've seen other people do this. Why not me? And what is it, Generation Psychopath? What's that book?
Sociopath. Generation Sociopath, yeah.
Slight distinction. Generation Sociopath. Yeah, I've tried to decipher it a lot, and I don't know what it is. It's just sort of like, can you not see this? So just
they were raised by TV, man. But anyway.
Yeah, so TV being now totally real, or it was online. I read it. It's real.
Yeah.
So now AI, I saw a face of Tom Cruise talking. Yeah. It's totally real.
Yeah, they cannot.
I cannot tell.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't want to be judgmental, and at the same time, it's like, is there a cognitive generational gap?
No,
I don't know what. How do you not learn?
They've quite literally been programmed since birth. I mean, they've been subjected to continual programming, not like our generation is the first generation that got semi-programmed and then got a different program installed, and then so we're that bridge generation. There's still a lot of our generation, Gen X, that's just deeply programmed, and
I think their programming was like, this is all real, it all makes sense, believe it. So it's like, they know. And then our generation were programmed more on like, do you see that bullshit?
Yeah.
Like, do you see the lies? And so like there's, good shows and programming there. There's also disinfo and programming there, but you can start to see it. And you're like,
Well, I mean, if you look at the artists that came out of the boomer generation, like they were all, like if you think about like movies leading up to when the boomers came of age to start making movies themselves, like these things were serious propaganda machines. I mean, just straight up. They talked to a director, Sam something or another, I can't remember his name. He used to do these hard-boiled detective movies and shit like that. And they were just sort of B-grade. It would just be detective films, right? Like, just crank these things out like Westerns, I mean, they're just simple as shit. But he would say, like, hey, I want to show the reality of crime in New York. And then everyone came and shut him down and said, you can't show that because every kid in fucking New York is going to be turned into a criminal when they find out how much money they can make. Like, no one's ever going to go straight if you show them the reality of a criminal lifestyle. So there was this, like, apparatus in place that was, I mean, it was straight up 100% propaganda. Some of those films are pretty good. And some of them tried to dance around the issue and kind of, slip stuff in there. Wizard of Oz was one of those things where you were kind of talking about. But they had to be very discreet about how they expressed that creativity. By the time the 70s rolled around, you ended up with films like The Godfather and, Apocalypse Now. And all these filmmakers, when they came of age, they were expressing like, hey, this is more like what the real world looks like. And so our generation kind of grew up in that, and these people were batshit crazy by the time they got there. They're all strung out on drugs and doing all sorts of crazy shit. But writ large, they were the vanguard of the artistic community that came out of the boomers was all about not necessarily supporting that narrative, but challenging that narrative. And boomers kind of like that because they think of themselves as like hippies that were out, marching and doing whatever. I mean, they were fucking useless. But
they changed the world.
Well, that's what they think. But, they're now, because of that early programming, they're now just part of the state. I mean, they are wards of the
deep state now.
100%. I mean, they're completely lost to the state and the state apparatus. Like, that entire generation is absorbed almost completely.
Co-opted, brainwashed Kool-Aid.
Right.
Like, the joy going on right now. It's like,
and so, but you can see that same thing that happened with our generation and our generation of artists. Like, they came out, like Nirvana and, the rap scene and all that kind of stuff were all people that were challenging those structural things. But now as those artists have matured, like you look at the Foo Fighters, they got all bent out of shape because RFK and Trump used their song. The Foo Fighters, the name is from a government conspiracy, right? About
UFOs.
like UFOs. They named their band after like a deep state conspiracy thing, and now they are
the establishment,
and now they're supporting that establishment because they are so deeply ingrained in it. So that sort of gradual shift, they've just lost, any semblance of the revolutionary spirit that they brought to their art to begin with. And so we'll probably see the same thing with this next generation of artists coming up. And if you look at the generation of artists now, sorry to interrupt, like these kids are very, if you look at some of the burgeoning voices, most of us won't hear them, but I got nephews and stuff, so I get some exposure to this. It's a very, very different vibe, and these kids are, the way they're challenging narratives is very, very different than what we're accustomed to. And sooner or later, they'll become captured by the state as well.
And maybe it's a natural thing that when you're a kid, you got to go through your rebellious, smash the state punk phase because, you got less to lose. You do see it's easy to point out what's wrong without actually having a solution. And so then you're going to, by God, we're going to, down with the man.
Yeah.
And then you are capable or can get educated and, people die and you get promoted. And now you're the manager.
Right.
And you quickly either conform and integrate or you're some sort of genius that reforms the system. But naturally, you probably kind of circle your emotional and financial wagons, and it's like if you're young and conservative, you have no heart, and if you're old and liberal, you have no brains. And so you're not a dummy. So yes, you're conservative.
Right.
And now you're the man, and even in your head, though, you're still that punk.
Right.
But you're not.
You're not, yeah.
You're now
You're part
thinking
of the problem.
punk, but you'll be known by your actions, which are protecting a system that kind of needs to just keep working.
Right. Yeah.
And it's that age-old story of the young kid who fights the system and then, even defeats the system and gets in charge and simply is, again, the system.
Becomes a system.
A system. And in his head, well, we did this for a reason. We had a revolution. We fixed it. And now it's different. And the people below them, they're like, stop, you're thinking, stop complaining, we fixed it.
Right.
They feel the same as you did, fighting you now.
Right.
And you're now the man. And actually, you're willing to commit homicide to protect that.
Oh,
Send the drones.
Yeah.
Protect the state.
Endlessly,
More war.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, man. And that's the thing that makes structural change difficult. And by the time you have enough wisdom and foresight and thought to sort of navigate it in a thoughtful way, you're already pretty well buried by it, right? It's to truly be an independent thinker that can marshal change and facilitate change, and it's an enormous burden. Very few people will ever navigate that gauntlet.
I don't think many do ever.
And most that end up on the other side, the amount of damage that occurs along the way is usually irrecoverable, right? So this thing is the system that we all currently exist under is a long winding evolution that's going back thousands of years, and it didn't happen overnight, right? And it's so much so now that it is its own organism. Like this thing is, like, whether you call it the capitalist world or just the sort of sovereign state world, like that is an autonomous system now. It runs independent of any actor, and it's self-sustaining beyond any actor. But I would say it's more like a cancer. Like it just keeps going despite damage to the system. It just keeps infesting the system, making it worse. Much like a cancer, it's a growth, it's a natural process, and it's a corruption of, fundamental, it's a force of entropy that just gradually takes over the system.
Yeah.
So,
it cannot be, surgically removed. It's a zombie. I don't know.
Well, I don't even know if it's a zombie because it's purposeful in its action. But it's purposeful, just like a cancer is, right?
Yeah. Silos of it have strong mission statements and agendas and smart people working hard for specific purposes. And as a system...
well, it's all cancer, though.
It's all cancerous. So, I don't know. You could not go in... basically, you would have to ruin what people think of as being... humanitarian. You get it. You get into the White House. You take dictatorial control. You set up a guillotine in the front lawn of the White House, and you're going to make a long line of everyone who violated the Constitution, and it ends now. That might take a big whack at the cancer and the horror.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's the thing is it wouldn't. It would be the same thing as just cutting out a piece of cancer. Like, it's going to grow right back.
Metastasize everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's just everywhere, right? So, like, you couldn't cut enough heads off to fix the problem that way.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you can't, if you went in and carved out 90% of a cancer, you get cancer. You still have cancer, right? It's not going to change. It might help you live a little bit longer, but until you actually defeat the cancer, until you actually make the cancer go away, then the system eventually is going to succumb to it, and it's going to degrade in entropy. And so there's, which, you know, I pointed this out last time. I think Bitcoin,
an exception to all of this, I was going to say the cypherpunks sort of broke the models, broke all models.
Sort of.
With cryptography and the spirit behind it.
Well, public cryptography was huge, right? That's a big deal.
So suddenly you could create freedoms.
A cure for the cancer. Like, you can actually start creating antibodies, something that can attack the cancer itself, you know. Because without it, the system is self-sustaining. If you can't create antibodies, but you can't create those antibodies if you don't have the building blocks for it. And like public key cryptography, public available cryptography is one tool that fundamentally changes the cancer fighting equation, right? Mm-hmm. Because prior to that, you cannot control media, you cannot control filmmaking, you cannot control these sources of production that create propaganda and instill these ideas and propagate them throughout the world. So, yeah, you're right.
Like the ethos of Satoshi man, he knew it so early, long before he wrote Bitcoin. He was there. He knew it. He studied it. He worked on many other things leading up to next step for him being Bitcoin. Built it, and it, cha-ching, it works. Boom, and walked away.
Yeah, yeah.
That is the kind of ethics that I think people are like, no. Now this is the time to go public.
Right.
Make your fiat money.
Yeah.
And it was this whole paradigm shift that I don't think humanity had ever really seen before, unless you were more specifically, directly, violently oppressed and you were fighting for your life. Yes, Braveheart, but this was like planned, built, genius level programming and systems, mechanisms, built, boom, walk away.
Potentially.
Genius.
I mean, the thing is how much genius you can attribute to that, I don't honestly know in terms of the grand scheme of things, because if you read the original Bitcoin white paper, like, he was sort of mired in a transactional idea, right? So what it's become, though, it's become its own system, which is sort of the interesting thing about it. But much like, you know, some of these novel cancer treatments become their own system. Like, it becomes a system that can attack the cancer and is revolutionary in terms of whoever Satoshi was or is had the foresight to walk away from it. Now, whether that was from, you know, self-interest, like, oh, I could get screwed if I continue to promote this thing, or if it was from that sort of benign, like, gift to the world, you know, this will be the thing, you know, that sort of Jesus level kind of, you know, gift to humanity. It almost doesn't matter because it happened, and that's a functional reality right now. So the immaculate conception, so to speak, of Bitcoin is one of the really remarkable qualities. Bitcoin is quite literally the most novel invention in the history of mankind. There's nothing that can parallel what that actually means. People really grossly underestimate what that means in a history of power structures, of money, greed.
Yeah. It's not just, peer-to-peer transactions for nerds. Great.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just like, you know, I mean, I think Michael Saylor's made the comparison to gunpowder. Like, they used to use it as medicine in China. They used it as medicine for hundreds of years. No one bothered to figure out, like, oh, hey, you can use this to make things go fast through the air, right? But I would argue the same thing happened with oil. Like, when they first found oil, the big market for oil Well, no, it was whale oil. They were trying to replace whale blubber,
going
right?
back there, yeah. I was thinking petroleum when they first found petroleum, and wasn't it? You were telling me Rockefeller himself, snake oil and all that.
I don't think it was me.
Oh, somebody was telling me about that.
But I mean, I'd written an article about, like they found kerosene to light lamps, as a byproduct. They were discarding gasoline as a waste product.
Mm-hmm.
They were just dumping it because it was fucking dangerous as shit, right? Like,
don't smell that.
Don't
stuff.
smoke around it, or it'll boom, But kerosene, they found, because naked crude oil, they were using it as a lubricant, but it stinks. It's dirty. You can't burn it without just a ton of smoke. I mean, it doesn't work real well. But once they figured out that distillation process where they could pull volatile chemicals out of the crude oil, then all of a sudden they went, oh, we got a market. We can light lamps with kerosene. This is great. They're a very tiny fraction of people figured out that, hey, no, this is revolutionary. That flammability is a huge bonus. And that's the same thing with Bitcoin right now. People don't understand, like, the capacity for what this is capable of doing. Right now, people still think Bitcoin is kerosene. They're like, "Oh yeah, we can light our lamps better." I'm like, "You don't get it, man. Like, this is going to revolutionize money the same way gasoline revolutionized the entire industrial revolution. Mm-hmm. It's that fundamental of a shift." So,
and I was listening on that Acquired podcast. They did more recently. They've done some amazing series on companies and the business of it all and the tech. I fell in love with this podcast. These guys are really smart. They did a great one on NVIDIA, 3-part series on NVIDIA. I heard about it from Harry Sudak, who recently his grid mining got acquired by CleanSpark, and he was on What Bitcoin Did, and he just briefly mentions Acquired. And I was like, Acquired, huh? And I'm curious about NVIDIA, so I check out that one, and then I could not stop. So I'm listening to a part series they did on Microsoft, and just how Microsoft evolved and became dominant and established and stuff. And that when the internet, it happened on many fronts between computers and then mini computers and then microcomputers. And there was this paradigm shift that you could say, okay, we saw coming, but even people getting their minds around, yeah, but like IBM, but it's always going to be hardware.
Right.
And then Microsoft's like, oh my God, we can print gold in software.
Yeah.
Software.
Right.
What a concept. Copy software.
Yeah.
Now that was one paradigm shift, and then you get into other techs, enterprise versus consumer markets. Okay, the internet. Mark Andreessen, we mentioned him last time, created Mosaic, became Netscape. Now he's the EE Accelerator guy at one level. So the internet comes, and even Netscape was sort of looking at it in terms of, we're going to sell hardware boxes that allow your home to get on the internet.
Right.
Not really fully understanding how the internet connectivity could happen and then what that would matter.
Right.
And it's like it's not the box hardware, it's not the computer hardware. It's sort of maybe what software app you run, but ultimately it's online.
Yeah.
However you want to fucking do it. And so Bitcoin is that in a way where it starts with electronic peer-to-peer cash system. Okay. That's one paradigm to start with.
Right.
And as it's evolved, basically my point being that guys like Bill Gates and Paul Allen, Mark Andreessen, Steve Ballmer, really smart people that were paying attention aggressively. Right. And it wasn't until they saw some kid on a college campus doing something different that they didn't expect with this internet thing.
Right.
It was still we're calling it the information superhighway.
Right.
The term internet switched within a year. It was suddenly this paradigm shift of like, oh my God, I didn't realize it was something else.
Right.
And these are smart guys working hard, not wanting to lose out big money in a big market.
Right. And they had no idea what they were playing with.
Barely made it, and in fact actually missed out because it changed without them, despite them, from little guys. And then the rise of Google, the failures of Google, the rise of Apple, and then the whatever else of Apple. Yeah. Geniuses are trying to keep up. Mm-hmm. And as a force of nature, the internet, like the internet, Bitcoin, will roar into the future as really smart people telling you how it works are actually just trying to stay relevant.
Yeah, just trying to keep up.
Trying to stay relevant because you have no idea. And what it became, they could not fathom until they saw it and were like, oh, I'm late.
Yeah, right.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that's precisely my point as well. I agree with you 1,000%. I think the way this develops, I don't think people are really prepared for it. I don't think there is any functional way to prepare for it.
Yeah.
But the fundamental shift in the way just business gets conducted in the world, I think is going to be astonishing. Like it is, to quote Jeff Booth, as always, as long as it remains decentralized and secure, that change process is going to occur, and it is going to infect every aspect of everyone's lives on planet Earth. And no one can really see that yet. Like, and myself included, I allude to like sort of grand ideas about what this can really be, and at the end of the day, I've got some ideas. That's it. And yet, I think even the scope of what I'm talking about will probably be dwarfed by the actual results of Bitcoin being unleashed on the world. It is the most powerful fiat cancer-destroying drug ever created in the history of mankind. It is the most novel invention in the history of mankind. It is going to make electricity look like a joke. It's going to make the internet look like a joke, because all of those things are functionally built on top of fiat thinking, sovereign thinking, right? Just take fiat out of it, because it's always been fiat. Like people go, oh, we need to go back to this. We need to go. Like there is no going back to anything. You may as well just say, let's just go back to hunting and gathering. It's a fucking pointless exercise. We need to go back to when the world was free. There's never been a time when the world was free. Not in the history, since agriculture, people have not been free, period. And people can debate it, and they can, cherry pick little data points throughout the timeline of humanity. None of them are fundamentally correct. And the arrogance is to think that we've got it figured out, right? So right now, what we are looking at is something where the system, however it manifests from now on, has a different life force coursing through it, and that's how things grow. It's like that's the chrysalis moment. That's the
I feel like my state in Bitcoin right now, just my relationship with Bitcoin. I parallel it with where I was in, I think, 1994, maybe it was 1995, where I was a nerd in the basement that my parents just sort of optimistically hoped I was a genius, but really I was fucking goofball. Can I have one of those?
Yeah, of
I
course.
left my home things at home.
Drugs. Don't do drugs, kids.
Nicotine,
raises testosterone, allegedly.
I was just going to say that.
I don't know if I believe that, but
I
fuck
want
it.
to believe it. So
I probably need a little extra.
Selective scientific belief.
I'm such a bitch.
Anyway, I was no genius, but I was antisocial enough to have a better relationship with computers that obeyed my commands.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was programming. I was loving it. I'm in high school, built my own. Man, we were using 386s, and I built a 486, and I splurged on 16 megabytes of RAM, up from 8 that a lot of these, 16 megs of RAM, and my big extended video card that had a big fat, parallel port. Anyway, in hindsight, hundreds of megabytes of hard disk storage.
Yeah.
I mean, awesome. I had a 2400 baud modem, and so like if your mom picked up the phone and it's like, and your porn download halts, or your Doom game freezes, and you're like, Mom, and she's like, I gotta call Aunt Bessie. Well, you're still on the phone? It's like, well, yeah, all day. Anyway, kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
I upgraded to a 14.4 baud modem.
Huge.
Oh my gosh.
So fast.
Text now shows up like in seconds.
Yeah.
And pictures I can like scroll more quickly, anyway. And I think I was in the transition from 14.4 baud to 56K. I think I went to 50, because it kind of made a leap to 56K.
Right.
And it was right in that 14.4 to 56K, going to college, realizing, and they weren't wired at the time.
Right.
but other people could be like 56K. Oh, like you're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, you're fast.
Or we can run serial cables down the dorm hallway and connect them and play Doom together.
Yeah, we can network ourselves.
And it's like kind of more or less streaming, and you can shoot me and I can shoot you, or we work together, whatever. Mind blowing. And I'm making, and through the college, they gave you on this Vax VMS server a little, I don't know, it might have been 20K or 100K of space or something ridiculous. You got an email account, and you got a little file space that was connected to HTTP, and you could make a web link off of college. Yeah. And I started making a web page, and I mean, nobody else kind of was, although I was in computer science, so a few classmates. Suddenly, I can make my social presence with my title, my interests, pictures of stuff I like, links to things I like. Hey, steal some music here, kids. And naively just enjoying all of that. And with Bitcoin, long story short, blah, blah, blah about my life, I'm in the Bitcoin stage where HTTP 1.0 allows you to have pictures embedded.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh my God, I can put a picture right here next to my links of my nerd stuff. And you can go onto your Commodore and
do the same
get
thing
online and see it from Boise.
Yeah, or wherever. Yeah.
You know, and so it was just so, I was nerding out on, my God, this internet thing. It lets you put text and pictures and links as much as you want, almost, to like whatever you want. And then, oh, look, Yahoo's like connecting a bunch of these together.
Right.
And WebCrawler lets you kind of look for them. That's where I'm at in Bitcoin, or we are at Bitcoin right now.
I think we might be further than that, truly.
I mean, there are things pushing way beyond that. I just don't know if it's, what's the word, ossified?
Well, ossified, maybe it's a word for it. I don't know. I mean, the thing, I love the analogy because it's sort of apropos in terms of adoption curves and things like that. I think most Bitcoiners to this day are still sort of idling in the idea that other people like you and me need to get on board with Bitcoin. That's the thing that's going to make Bitcoin go. It's like when every pleb on planet Earth is holding and exchanging in Bitcoin. And I deviate slightly from that because most economic actors don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Like however many transactions I do in my lifetime will never equate to anything meaningful, no matter how wealthy I become. Right?
Yeah.
Unless I become one of the super rich where my economic decisions actually impact the world in a material fashion, it's sort of pointless. It doesn't matter like how you exchange your time for your bread or your gasoline or your car or whatever. It's sort of, I mean, collectively it becomes like a big thing, but individually we're all sort of meaningless, right?
It could be that like you're a whole coiner. Which island of the Pacific do you have?
Potentially. I mean, that's what I'm saying is for the very select handful of people, and it really is a small group of people. Who knows how many people are actually meaningful holders of Bitcoin right now? Maybe 100,000, 200,000, a million. I don't know.
Actually.
I think there's like 1 million wallet addresses that have greater than X some 0.1 Bitcoin or something like that.
Sure.
So, I mean, if you just equate it, if you drew that out and said, okay, well, I will call those wallets meaningful holders of Bitcoin, anything above 0.1. That means there's 1 million people out of 8 billion that kind of get it, right? And the thing with those wallet addresses, it's a faulty metric because you don't know how many wallets somebody possesses. So let's say it's 500,000 people on planet Earth, just as a round number, just to pull some number out of my ass, are meaningful holders of Bitcoin. That to get that to 4 billion, which would be a meaningful number, I mean, you can't have 4 billion people that have 0.1 Bitcoin, right? Like,
I think most people eventually they'll have derivative tokens.
I don't think most people will ever get Bitcoin. I really don't. Like, at all. Like, I really don't think
it'll be fiat translated something, or
almost inevitably. I think as part of the degrading the cancer. Like, I don't think Bitcoin kills the system. I think it kills the cancer. And by killing the cancer, I mean it fixes, like if you have cancer in your fat cells, like that kind of doesn't really matter to the system, right? But most people in the fiat system are the fat cells. Like they don't, they can impinge on the health of the rest of the system, but it doesn't really meaningfully affect the system. But the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the intestines, the brains, the eyes, all those things are like systemically important. And that's where all the cancer is right now in the fiat world. It's all in the vital organs, right? So as the vital organs get healed from the cancer, I think then the fat cells can shrink to the size they're supposed to be, and the system starts regulating itself properly. And then the rest of us that aren't Bitcoin holders, the other 8.3 billion people that aren't Bitcoin holders, suddenly just become part of that system the way it's meant to be operating, right?
And suddenly I feel like the body, instead of being like, no, we can't do anything but sit on the couch, the eventual great realignment could be that we can get up and go on a walk.
Yeah. Well,
humanity can go on a walk now.
Well, it starts allocating human resources correctly, right? Like right now, that fat is just accumulating and it's just sitting there and just making, it's like if the fiat system, if the current global sovereign driven fiat system, for lack of a better term, is the body, right? Humanity is the great big blubber that's wrapping the whole thing up, right? And we have been allowed to become big blubbery fat cells all around
in
this.
our war chests here.
Right. Well, I mean, if you take the, in comparison of the people that matter economically to the number of fat cells, just like the number of organs that matter to your system versus the number of fat cells a big fat person carries around, it's probably the similar equation to the number of economically important actors in the world versus the number of human beings that are sort of just floating around it, right? And the fat cell analogy, I think, is appropriate because, like, fat cells you don't get more fat cells or less fat cells, they just grow in size. They get bigger or smaller, right? So if you have become a great big obese person like that piece of shit from the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, I don't know, the guy that's always like trying to bust his buttons off of his coat.
I have seen that.
Well, I mean, if you take that guy as like the the model of the world, like the fat cells that guy is toting around, every time they break out the forklift to get him out of his desk, he's got organs and a skeletal frame underneath that's probably a fraction of the size, right? So what Bitcoin does to that system would be the equivalent of giving that guy something that can heal all his organs and heal all of his, broken incentive mechanisms and all his broken, hormonal regulation pathways. It can fix all the mitochondrial damage that is occurring in that guy. So those fat cells can shrink back down to the size they're supposed to be. And so that guy could be a very functionally healthy person that could support all of those fat cells correctly if he wasn't riddled with the cancer of obesity. And so I think that's what Bitcoin does to our system. And I think it happens quickly. I think it's going to be similar to a weight loss journey for that big fat pig.
You've been writing on this, I imagine.
Yeah, a lot. Well, I've been thinking about this a lot and probably my whole life, right? So it's,
now I wonder too, not to cut off your point, will the brain someday be largely AI driven?
Who knows? I mean, AI is a fiat creation right now. Like
that's true.
It's a debt fueled creation, and it's
more power, more data centers, more whatever that is,
and all that development and all the work that gets devoted to it. That's all driven by malinvestment mostly. I mean, but there's an incentive to sort of create that. I think that AI is an accelerant on the cancer, truly, and I think right now we are in a race between Bitcoin and AI for the humanity writ large. I think AI makes those fat cells explode.
AI could see Bitcoin as the tool that fixes things, or
I don't buy that.
Work.
I put zero stock in that theory. I hear a lot of people say that, like, and people I really respect, like Joe Burnett from Unchained says that a lot. Like, hey, this is going to be the currency of AI, and I think Michael Saylor said that.
Yeah, AI will identify what works.
Yeah, and I don't think it will see it as that. I really don't. Like, I think an artificial intelligence that can manipulate people and has the ability to deceive and to make decisions and is autonomous, I don't think will view the monetary system as a viable option forward anyway. I think it'll view humanity more like, not in a benign way like that. At best, we'll be pets, right?
The Matrix.
Potentially. Yeah, maybe we'll just be batteries for them. I don't know. But what I'm getting at is, like, the Bitcoin is humanity. AI is a cancer accelerant. And whoever wins that race, I think, writes the future of us writ large. Because I think humanity is a beautiful thing. I mean, I think we're a beautiful species. And if we're properly incentivized and the system is functioning correctly, we do amazing things, clearly. And if we let the cancer take over and just keep trying to live with the cancer, then eventually the system dies, we die. And what's going to be left is the replacement for humanity, which will probably be artificial and silicone-based and not us. So there's my happy thoughts for the day.
That's where I reached the event horizon of my imagination on where this is all going. And it's hard to imagine. What is that paradigm, and can I even understand it? I don't know.
I don't know if we're capable, any of us.
I don't think we're capable. And where it goes, it'll be like trying to imagine what the internet became in 1994.
Yeah.
For me, it'd be like...
Yeah, that's why it's a great analogy. You know?
Web pages and searches. And then, yeah, it's so much different. So,
well, I mean, like I said, I think your analogy is really great, and I think a lot of people sort of make that analogy because, like, this is where you're at. You don't understand where it's going, and I think that's the correct assessment.
Yeah, we don't know where it's going.
We can't quite see it yet, and if there's any merit to my thesis about this, then I think the world is going to be a beautiful place. So, and I don't think it'll shape out or play out the way people expect it to or want it to, or, you know, they're talking about $1 million Bitcoins or having yachts and all this kind of stuff. Like, I don't know how much of that comes true, and yet the way humanity can be beautiful and sustainable and bring out the best in what every human is capable of, I don't think looks like, you know, having $1 million Bitcoin and a handful, 500,000 Bitcoiners that are super ultra wealthy and everyone else is sort of struggling to get their bread.
Thinking of being pro-human, being a humanist myself, I saw a great interview with the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang. He is, I believe, truly, I think he is a good, well-intended person. And people will judge NVIDIA and things. Okay, NVIDIA, sure. On the Acquired podcast, they had a 3-part series on NVIDIA, and then later they traveled to Hong Kong, but anyway, they interviewed Jensen. That guy, he's got first principles that are squarely pro-human, I believe. And when they made some big bets, but they migrated from just providing video processing to like a GPU. Wow, the number of cores in that, right, and what that took for gaming. And then they made a big leap, like, okay, beyond gaming, where's a big market that also is going to help humanity? Right. They got into the academic world, the sciences, and reached out to researchers, because researchers were buying GPUs to model physics, and they were translating things they needed to do quantum stuff, biological stuff, molecular interactions, protein combinatoric connections studies. Right. They were trying to do all that, and GPUs could do it. They were coding things on how do molecules connect and interrelate with each other, and they were translating commands intended for graphical processing into, well, let's just call this thing a molecule, and it'll have these certain rules and interact with other molecules with other videographic type concepts. Jensen invested and made freely available languages in a framework called CUDA, CUDA.
I think it's CUDA.
he built CUDA to basically be the simulation world of, say, APIs, if you will, that if you're doing biology, chemistry, physics, quantum stuff, you can interact with CUDA and utilize these GPUs to simulate environments,
Right.
mechanical environments, conceptual, rules-based, just and when you think about physics, not just, okay, for graphics, it's like 2D, 3D type concepts. With the massively parallel cores on a GPU, they can process things that, the numbers are crazy. Is like the number of grains of sand on the beaches in the world, level of numbers. Applied to physics at a way where it can do processing in ways that humans cannot keep in their brains, in the sense of multi-dimensional type concepts, many dimensions that exist mathematically but that we do not experience in our brains. His intent behind all that being providing humanity with the tools to study and research and create, just explore science. I find that inspiring.
I would find that inspiring as well, save for the fact that if you strip away the artifice of his sales narrative, which that is, by the way, like, it's, look at all the great things we're doing for humanity. Just imagine if they, like, let's just frame up a potential alternative hypothesis that they go, we are trying to extract as much money as possible from humanity. And like, if you just go look at the vendor financing model that they use, and then you look at how inflated those numbers are based on their debt-driven and that are backed by their own, it's a circular economy. It's just like a crypto token that's backed by itself. Like, it's fucking Terra Luna Part 2. It's just GPUs instead of
Well, instead of number go up, it's like, hey, researcher, you can.
Hold on. Well, hear what I'm saying, because it's not about what the researchers can do. That's the sales pitch, 1,000%. The reality behind the scenes, if you look at the vendor financing model and the way that they are incurring debt and using that debt as their profit, and how much revenue they're generating from those debt models that they're using through vendor financing, and then you trace that out, you go, oh, what's all that debt backed by? Well, NVIDIA, by the chips. Oh, the chips that will be useless if 3/4 of these companies go out of business? What happens then? Oh, there's nothing back in the debt. Oh, so what happens to NVIDIA's number? Oh, it goes to fucking 10% of what it is now. So, but it's also the same argument you can make about Elon Musk. You go, Elon Musk is here to save humanity. Cool, awesome. So how's he going to do that? Well, he's going to fly us all to Mars, and we're going to go live on Mars. We're going to be a multiplanetary species. That's a great narrative. It's a great sales pitch. The reality of that is far different, far removed from the difference between getting reusable reentry vehicles 75% of the time to having human habitation on Mars is an enormous exponential difference in terms of complexity.
Sure.
But what he has done is he has taken a green company, Tesla, invested in a bunch of batteries and solar power and all this bullshit that is net destructive to the environment, 100%. But he's used that narrative to fund this other thing. The thing that nobody seems to care about or point out is that if you are a company, a privately held company that is deeply embedded within the military-industrial complex now, because he has a fleet of fucking satellites surrounding the Earth, he has reusable launch vehicles, and he is potentially getting a launch vehicle that can carry enormous payloads into orbit, outer space, elsewhere, and you think that is simply just because of his benign hope to save humanity by putting them on Mars, versus what does that do to him and his company in terms of the military-industrial complex in the United States of America, globally, writ large. I'm not saying that's what he's doing. What I'm saying is there is another path very clearly relevant to the discussion that nobody discusses, because everyone wants to buy into the narrative. We're here to do AI, to do all this beneficial shit, yada, yada, yada. In the back end, these people are making themselves extraordinarily powerful, extraordinarily wealthy, and extraordinarily valuable to the sovereigns. Like, people will be willing to go to war over NVIDIA's chip manufacturing where they are. People are willing to right now go to war over who controls and develops AI. People are going to be willing to go to war over who controls that network of satellites, who controls these launch vehicles, who controls these launch technologies. So, yeah, like potentially the NVIDIA guy is the benign savior of humanity. Potentially he really believes that. Behind the scenes, if you look at how that company is structured, you go, that's a great big fucking debt bubble that's going to pop.
I could see where the vision and the humanism is all there and is the inspiration for it. And then where that interfaces with business and survival in modern fiat economies, it all gets translated behind the scenes with, debt and bottom lines and stockholders and blah, blah, blah.
My point is if your design on the world is, I want to be the most powerful evil dictator ever to exist in humanity. I want to control fucking everything. If you come out and say that out loud, nobody's going to let you do it. They will oppose you 100%. The only way you can do that is through deceit. You cannot become the most powerful human being on planet Earth that controls the most resources on planet Earth unless you are deceiving people into allowing you to become that Goliath, Leviathan creature. So if you come out and say, I am here to save humanity by investing in all this amazing, and then you tout all the amazing things you're going to do for humanity, that's the same playbook the communists use. That said, we are going to save humanity from the scourge of capitalism. What did they end up doing? Slaughtering people wholesale because they became Leviathan and powerful.
I guess my view on guys like Jensen Huang and Elon Musk is applying Hanlon's razor. I don't think they're approaching it with that, like, how do I become that dictator? I have to connive and do all these things because otherwise it's not going to work. You could say, no, they just maybe naively believe it and then ultimately get co-opted business-wise because they're in that system.
Well, using Hanlon's razor, I would agree with you. I don't necessarily believe these people are conniving to become the most evil dictators on planet Earth. And through their own incompetence, they could very well end up there.
Right. Sort of like you were that punk in the 80s and now you're on the board and now actually you're just actually part of the system. You think you're punk, but you're part of the system.
Both those guys think they're punk right now. They think, look at all this amazing stuff. If I give them that benefit of the doubt.
And Elon is still, he's in his own mind, but in his own way, fighting for what you would say he says is free speech.
That's what he's telling you. That's what he is saying. That's not necessarily what he's doing.
That's true.
So my point is if you look at what the outcomes of these decisions, these outcomes of the reality versus their sales narrative is the thing that I think needs to be critically evaluated at all times, and especially someone that is acquiring that much power. It is enormously dangerous to just assume this is a benign force that they're unleashing on the world. So, like I said, Elon Musk founded Tesla, and his sales narrative is, we want to bring green technology to the world to save us from CO2 emissions and yada, yada, yada. What he created was a great big environmental catastrophe in battery-driven cars. That is absolutely fundamentally at odds with his stated goals. So right there, you've already got an example of this guy is acting maliciously while parroting a positive narrative, or is invoking and creating negative externalities, negative outcomes based on a sales pitch that cannot be realized by what he's saying.
And as long as the goal is still good, yes, in the meantime, we don't have the technology to do it.
That's called the road to hell paved with good intentions. That is fundamentally the definition of a road to hell paved with good intentions. So from
maybe we can get there. I don't know.
Not with what he's proposing. Not at all. I mean, there is no shortage. Like, you can just go dig up the research on battery waste, on solar panel lifespans, on wind-generated turbines. All this kind of shit is absolutely destructive to the environment, and there is no way to mitigate the damage and the waste that they're creating. So right there, while it's helpful and fun to look at the narrative, the critical approach is to step back and go, well, I appreciate what you think you're trying to do, what you may really believe you're trying to do. What I can see are some outcomes that are not necessarily aligned. It's called the law of unintended consequences, right? And it very much aligns with Hanlon's razor. You can say, I don't believe
you didn't mean to do all that, but the only path you had was
you end up
destructive as everything else.
I don't think the people that are pushing communism right now are intending to slaughter another 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 million people.
No,
they end up doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And their sales narrative never says, their sales narrative is always, we are trying to do the right thing and we just have to make these sacrifices to get there. And that guy that built that fucking truck out there may well end up doing the same thing. And by the time you were so embroiled in your illusions and you're so insulated from reality because you are surrounded by sycophants and people that will not say no to you and will not challenge your ideas and will not call you to account, when you are completely insulated from that is when you go batshit crazy. That's how you end up Howard Hughes. That's how you end up Robert Downey Jr. That's how you end up all these fucking people that go nuts because they get so deeply insulated from opposing opinions that they start thinking that they start adopting upon themselves godlike.
Yeah.
Or and they think they have godlike qualities.
Yeah, and I don't know about Elon. Jensen, he was describing a meeting he was just in right before the interview where he likes to be challenged, and like he was in a meeting where there were newly graduated university grads along with managers and vice presidents and peer exec guys all in a room and just say, hey, everyone is being heard and I want to be challenged because I cannot presume that I know or that we know. We all need to be heard. And it felt like this egalitarian, accessible feedback loop.
Yeah, well, go, if you can find it, go see how many people ask him about his funding model. Go see how many of those people raise a question about, because they're all going to be talking about AI, the future of AI, how AI is going to do this, how do your graphics processors keep up, what if you get challenges from these other competitors, blah, 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 blah. It's all fucking bullshit. It's a side issue to how are you funding NVIDIA right now? Tell me more about your vendor financing model and see what sort of reaction you get. Because if he goes, yeah, you're right, our vendor funding model is completely fucking broken. It's absolutely a bubble and it can absolutely collapse. If you hear that from him, I go, oh, okay, this guy's an honest guy that's trying to do the right thing. What I would almost guarantee is if you start pushing hard enough on that button, you're going to start getting some violent reactions back. That's bullshit. You'll get shut down. I don't think you'll have an honest debate about the vendor financing. Maybe I'm wrong. Bitcoin, I don't know the guy.
Inoculate that system where, man, yes, they're making their cash, and yes, their current financial mechanisms are hugely fiat and debt driven. If they're in this horse race over here, and they're working that vision and whatever strategy aside, they integrate Bitcoin into their financial processes. Could Bitcoin reorient their incentives model? And
potentially, I don't think their incentive model is valid to begin with. I think the incentives are working from, I think when Bitcoin starts inoculating the system against the cancer, I think that's one of the cancer cells that dies. Like that whole line of thinking, theory, all of it, I think starts to degrade pretty rapidly. And what doesn't degrade from that will actually become functionally useful and helpful to humanity. Because right now, the path they're on is net destructive. It's going to be destructive for humanity, without question. So, are there aspects of artificial intelligence, quote unquote, that can be enormously beneficial to human beings? Absolutely, without question. To create something like that can be enormously beneficial. The path that they are choosing does not have those guardrails in place. It does not have that safety in place. It does not have that ideology in place at all. They are racing as fast as they can because they're worried someone else will catch it first. And they know not what they invoke right now. They are playing with things that are extraordinarily dangerous, and they don't have any guardrails in place. Just go listen to that. There's a great little, someone said it was banned from YouTube or whatever because it was can't remember, maybe it was Larry Page, one of those fucking Google assholes. And he says, yeah, well, right now we can't tell Like, we don't know what to ask it if the AI is doing something harmful, but we got people working on that.
Yeah, right. I heard that. No, we have smart people. The best men are working on this.
That don't know what questions to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So the best in the world don't know what questions to ask, but we're working on it. Meanwhile, we're just letting it fucking run anyway. You go, that's not going to work out well. Like, you just can't. That is a fundamentally flawed approach to tinkering with enormous forces, right? And if you're talking about something that's a super or hyper intelligence, and you don't know how to control it, you don't know how to stop it, and you can't identify when it's being harmful to you. And in fact, it may well create something that is entirely harmful to human beings, and they never realize it.
You wouldn't know until it's already done.
Until it's already implemented.
Mm-hmm.
So to what end does that, what hell does that road lead to? What I think this does is it starts fundamentally realigning things in a manner that makes it less likely for those things to be prioritized. Because right now they're all scrambling for the fucking fiat bucks, like 100%.
Sure.
And their narrative and the way they're coming up with things and the narratives that they create are not necessarily aligned with the outcomes they are creating already.
My positive view and hope is that a Bitcoin realignment would change the financial incentives and free them up to continue pursuing the good vision and ideal goals, but minimize or repair the fiat goals. And if they got the Bitcoin going for them, and then it's like, you know what? We don't have to worry about maintaining all this over here to stay on the hamster wheel. Cash heavy or treasury great as they are, it's all fiat. If Bitcoin alleviated all that for them and they could simply go, you know what? We can simply focus on the good stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe, and yes, now that takes energy and we need energy. So the innovators and largely corporations are going to hopefully put, well, how do we do better energy storage, energy transmission, all this stuff. There's going to be incentives to create better, cleaner nuclear, or can we do fusion? I think the goals are there, but we can't get there without putting the building blocks together that, yes, are destructive, but the goal is that it's less destructive or eventually non-destructive.
Yeah, potentially. Like, I think all of those things are fiat goals, though. We are so far removed from any realistic human goal in terms of what is beneficial to humanity. And that goes all the way back to the birth of the combustion engine and gasoline and the discovery of oil. If you look at the technologies that were coming on board at the end of the century and, at the tail end of the Industrial Revolution, or kind of in the middle of the Industrial Revolution, a lot of them were innovations that were sort of human-powered, but efficiencies for humans. Right now, what they did was they just stripped all that away. All those innovations died the second gasoline combustion engines came along because they didn't need them anymore. And so they could generate all this other stuff from just that unlocking that one power source. And so it fundamentally changes the trajectory of human innovation and human development. And I think the same thing is going to happen with Bitcoin. Once they unlock that true potential of what Bitcoin does, I think it fundamentally alters the trajectory of human development and human innovation. And I think it probably traces it back closer to something that was happening at the turn of the 18th into the 19th century, right? Like 1895 type. And so we get some of the benefits of the fiat debt-driven technologies that we've created. And I think a lot of the waste that's inherent to that system gets stripped away. And once you get rid of that waste, which is the equivalent of shrinking all those fat cells I was talking about, and get people down to a place where it's a sustainable system and a sustainable path forward for humanity, I think a lot of the benefits that they think will accrue from AI will become irrelevant. Like, I don't think people will need that as much anymore. I don't think people will require as much power to consume anymore. I don't think the amount of centralization of resources will be quite as relevant anymore. I think those are all the things that start fundamentally getting realigned by the adoption of Bitcoin. So it takes us out of the realm of this, because all of this stuff is incredibly wasteful. NVIDIA is incredibly wasteful. Producing those chips is incredibly wasteful. Producing Teslas is incredibly wasteful. Producing cars is incredibly wasteful. Producing these buildings the way we build them is incredibly wasteful. Like, everything we do is predicated on waste. And without the waste, you don't have the labor, and without the labor, you don't have the money, and without the money, you don't have the system, et cetera, et cetera.
So reading Principles of Economics, Seyfedin Amu, the Bitcoin Standard guy. He describes in his book, Principles of Economics, he describes concepts around what I hear you saying is that large consumption of energy, and yes, there's collateral waste, but that is fiat. Seyfedin says it's not wrong to consume more energy or use more energy, or growth and expansion and energy use is not inherently wrong. It's what humans do when they're thriving and growing. Like, that's baked in. We need more energy.
Well, that's baked into a fiat mindset, 100%.
So Seyfedin has some fiat going on with that concept.
Well, I mean, just the very concept of having that relegated. Like, I talk about the Bitcoin Standard, and I cite that sort of lineage of thinking, and I think in a transitional sense, it probably makes sense. I think writ large, 20 years from now, I think this conversation is going to look very different. Like, I think, and we met Safdien in Miami, right? He's a great guy. He's super cool. And I think he's a brilliant thinker. And I think it is sort of, that line of thinking falls prey to the same thing that a lot of the internet pioneers did. Like, they see a path forward, it makes sense to them, they can see how this is going to develop, but then 10 years later, they're just like, oh, wow. I mean, I kind of had it, but man, I didn't really see any of this coming. Like, I had a path forward, I was working off some very valid assumptions and presumptions, but what it turned into is far different than what I expected, what I anticipated in 1994 versus what happened in 2004, and certainly what happened in 2014 and now today. Like, the difference between today's internet and how we deploy that and use that and computing power and all that is so fundamentally different from 1994. Like, it's not even, you can scarcely contemplate it, right? And if you told you, like, if I sat there and told you in 1994, hey Fritz, I see what you think about this is going to go this way, and you've got some ideas about how this is all going to work, and then I just challenged all of it and said, I get why Steve Jobs thinks that, I get why Bill Gates thinks that. That's not the way this is going to go. I think the reflexive reaction at the time would be, well, they know better than you do,
Right.
Which you can't blame anybody for that. And yet there's that fundamental lack of imagination, even in the people that are at the cutting edge of it. Because like you said, they're not at the forefront and understand everything. They are behind it and trying to catch up to it.
So if humanity if we invented a very, very clean, or say free energy mechanism, somehow, humanity creates free energy. We realize that with this little tiny capsule of saline water, we can create from that
infinite energy,
all the energy you need. Okay, let's just say we had that. Is it a problem then to be consuming a lot of energy to propel stuff we're doing?
Well, it's not a matter of whether or not it's, because the energy issue, right now we have an abundance of energy on planet Earth. Like, there's no shortage of energy right now at all. When I was down at the University of Auckland, there's a guy, Joseph Tupe, shout out if you ever see this. He was studying for a master's of energy, and he was all about renewables. He spent a lot of time in Africa trying to help them come up with renewables. And I remember having a discussion with him. I think we were at some sort of mixer, because we were both master's candidates at the time. And there's some mixer for the master's candidates of various disciplines. And we were sitting there talking, and I said, they were having, him and some other of our fellow students were having a discussion about energy usage and energy generation and all that kind of stuff. And I just said out loud, like, we don't have an energy shortage problem. We have an energy usage problem. Like, we inefficiently...
Use and transmission, yeah.
Well, no, not just transmission. I mean, we very grossly inefficiently use energy. If you just increase the efficiency and the thoughtfulness into how we use energy, we would have so much energy on this planet, no one would ever question it. We have plenty of energy. And he said, you're absolutely right. That's 100% correct. People don't get that. We waste so much energy on so many wasteful practices. So to the idea that you go, well, we should just have infinite, I mean, if you had infinite energy, it would be like, it's like an infinite money printer. You just end up wasting and wasting and wasting. And it's really, really hard to tell where that energy should be devoted, right?
But then who cares if it's wasted? I mean, sure, waste it.
Well, you say that, but it's the same argument you can make with fiat. Well, who cares then? Just waste it. Then look what result you get.
At least it wouldn't be, I mean, I just wouldn't associate energy use with a kind of inherent guilt over efficiency.
Well, no one's talking about guilt, and there's no guilt associated here.
If you had free energy, and yes, as you're building and working on stuff and you're, pursuing your dreams, and in that process, as you're figuring that out and you're learning as we go, yes, you're trying, and for every big win, you've failed 10 times. And through that, you've been wasting energy. You've been wasting energy, but who cares?
Well,
we're using energy. Yeah.
Well, like I said, right now they waste enormous amounts of fiat. Where does it go? It goes to people that are best able to marshal those resources into things that are net destructive for humanity. Nuclear weapons, warfare, censorship, like all those things are tools of unlimited money, which if you take Michael Saylor's view, that's unlimited energy, right? So that's the functional equivalent of it. So you go, what does that energy get devoted to? How does it get, how many people are going to use that for means that, or things that end up destructive to humanity?
That's true.
And how do you rein it in then?
Well, like the Wright brothers created an airplane, and within 10 years, one of the first uses is, how can we use this flying thing to drop bombs now?
Correct.
Versus 50 years later, commercial flights.
Right.
So new technology.
Yeah.
So imagine the conspiracy theory of Tesla created, Nikola Tesla created free energy. Right. He had it. Powers that be realize we cannot let the genie out of the bottle. It has to be stopped. It has to be metered, right, controlled. No, stay on the petroleum because that can be metered and distributed under control. If humanity had free energy, we are in trouble because now people are building nukes in their garage or whatever.
Maybe.
I don't know.
You don't know what comes out of that. I mean, the thing is, we technically already have free energy. It's called the sun. It comes down, rains down on us 24/7. So there is unlimited abundant energy on Earth just from the sun. And that powers all life on Earth right now. So the notion that we need to create some sort of artificial source to build upon that, how is that necessarily beneficial? I could say, well, that's another accelerant for the cancer, potentially. I mean, the thing being is, like, the way people view the world right now is through a fiat lens. And nobody alive knows any other way of existing than through a fiat lens. There's no human being alive right now that has ever existed on anything but fiat. So to ask someone like that, step out of your fiat mindset, step out of the matrix, truly see what actually comes of this, is far different than what the reality is. People will go, oh, I'm out of the matrix. No, you're not. You're still in the matrix. Did you go to the store and use your fiat today? Yeah, you're still in the matrix, dude. And so if everybody is still in the matrix and, they're in that sort of dream state between the matrix and true reality, which, there's a group of physicists that just won the Nobel Prize because they've proven, so they say, that local reality doesn't exist. So you go, oh, well, there you go. So what is reality and all this kind of stuff? I mean, you start tracing into the realms of God and things like that. So those who arrogate themselves to the idea that I know as much as God does, which are the people that are driving AI and renewables and all this fiat thinking and unlimited energy and all that kind of shit, they are taking the position that they know as much as God. And I do not agree that any human being has that capacity. So my broad thesis being, whether or not we end up with unlimited energy, sort of irrelevant. What I think will happen eventually is either we will continue down the fiat cancer path, which I think is inevitable, and we can inoculate the system with Bitcoin, which may or may not cure the system fast enough before it destroys everyone. If it does not destroy everyone, a healthy system, I think, looks very different than what we're accustomed to for the last 100 years.
Certainly. And what that is, I mean, yeah, I can't imagine it. But as I do try to be optimistic and say, well,
I think I am just as much, I share just as much optimism. I just don't place much optimism in fiat ideas. Mm-hmm. Like, I think the optimistic future for humanity is one where these fiat ideas become irrelevant. Like, we just need unlimited energy. I go, well, or maybe humanity can super, super duper thrive without needing to create artificial energy sources that allow any fucking stupid idea to get propagated around the world. I think humanity can thrive without AI. I think, or with an AI that is geared and appropriately guardrailed to help humanity rather than to further fiat thinking, further fiat outcomes. Like, oh, we just all want to be big fat people that sit there and eat fiat food that is just delivered to us by a fucking robot that knows exactly how to program us to just sit there and consume until we die. Like, that's not helpful. An autonomous system that is armed and can defensively attack things or offensively attack things with no human in the loop. It's a terrible fucking idea, especially if you don't know if the AI is planning on doing something harmful. And the AI can't tell you, and you don't know what to ask. These are fucking catastrophically bad ideas.
The AI knows when to cancel simply Bitcoin, and there's no recourse, there's no understanding of why it's simply, no, the decision was made.
Right. If you've ever been managed by a robot, like, just go get a job with Amazon. Go deliver packages for Amazon for a month or two. Just try it and see what it's like to be managed by a robot. And that's a very basic, simplistic robot. And it's fucking nightmarish. I mean, it's dystopian, it's Orwellian, and you really have to tailor your behavior to meeting that algorithm. And even when you do everything right, you can still get fucked by it. So, and that's just one tiny deployment of human AI interface right now. So you magnify that and then make that AI super smart and not necessarily aligned with what you want or what is beneficial for you. It's a catastrophically bad outcome. So I think that is humanity right there. Bitcoin represents humanity. Bitcoin represents the best in humanity. I think the rest of this shit is not aligned with humanity. And I think even the great minds like Elon Musk and what's his face from NVIDIA, I think they all acknowledge that, and they will in quiet corners, certainly. But if you hear that dickhead from Google talking about it, oh yeah, I'm a liberal and I created this defensive system that can make it so no land attack can happen. You go, you just created an invisible fence to keep everybody isolated on their island. Because anything that can keep you out can also keep you in. And now you've cemented inexorably forever the notion of sovereign control. And that is catastrophically fucking stupid to let a robot do that to you. And they've already developed it. He's proudly saying this is an accomplishment for him. I go, man, you are a fucking monster and you don't even realize it. So that's my 2 cents.
I don't disagree. And yet I remain optimistic because Bitcoin fixes this. And I'm just waiting for like my next big epiphany step. So you can have politicians saying the word Bitcoin and like have fun playing with your Bitcoin. Okay, cool. I would love to see an Elon Musk or a Jensen Huang or other leaders in the Atlas Shrugged world adopting Bitcoin as what fixes their bottom line. And then just focusing on the human good, which I hear them saying, and I think they believe, they just get tied up in the...
I don't think they're tied up in it. I don't think they realize it's happening.
Or they don't even know it's happening. That's just the world. It's the air they breathe.
It's the air we all breathe, right? We're all caught up in it. Yeah. And whether or not they adopt it, if they do, I think it's inevitable that economic actors like that have to adopt Bitcoin. What I think that does is it changes the trajectory of their development cycle, and they start looking at things differently. And just the same as like when you adopted Bitcoin as a Bitcoin standard and I adopted Bitcoin, it fundamentally changed my outlook on the world. It did not just fix my balance sheet. It did not just make me go, oh, I can buy more groceries now. It fundamentally changed everything that I do in my life, from my health outcomes, how I treat my health, how I eat, how I look at the world, how I interact with other people, how I approach work, how I approach play, how I approach everything has fundamentally changed, night and day difference from before I adopted Bitcoin to after. And if that happens at NVIDIA and that fundamentally changes the direction they go, then that's an enormous benefit for humanity. And if it fundamentally changes Elon Musk, if it fundamentally changes the defense industry, if it fundamentally changes all these big things at the same scale and the same magnitude that it fundamentally affected me and you, then it's a completely different world.
I think all that can happen as it happened with us and many others.
I think that is the thing.
These thought leaders will start to get it, and then as it percolates, it will shift their thinking. And then yes, they still have that same energy and drive and hope for the future, perhaps, but it has kind of shifted as it did for all of us.
Correct.
And that's where I really do have a lot of hope.
Right.
So,
which is why I think a lot of these ideas will slowly, in their minds, in their own minds, their ideas, like the ideas that I had about what a good life looks like before Bitcoin and after, I think will shift in them as well.
mm-hmm.
And then that will slowly, they'll go, hey, well, we've been traveling down this shotgun approach towards AI, but you know what? There's this really interesting path here that is much safer. Why don't we harness our energy and focus on that? Because now I'm fundamentally realigned. Let's fundamentally realign my company. And then as more and more economic actors start channeling that energy in a human-centric, human-first angle, then suddenly the great realignment has occurred and no one even knew it happened.
And the next generation of thought leaders, kids today who are, like looking at the life story of Jensen Huang, it's incredible. And so you got a genius kid who becomes a genius teenager and then a genius college grad and a genius CEO. The next generation of kids who are eager and hungry to be exploring and creating and all that, you're going to have these people, these kids, growing up in more of a Bitcoin world where from the get-go, their orientation and their thought processes are more aligned.
Correct.
And they become the next Elon Musk, the next Jensen Huang, whatever, but with a new view on the world from the get-go.
Correct. They come into the world because as these systems realign, as the system becomes healthier, then the incentive structure changes dramatically. It shifts overnight, and it becomes a thing where right now, if you're a genius kid, you're incentivized to go and become the next Elon Musk, which is capture as much fiat as you can.
Mm-hmm.
If that shifts to, hey, the actual beneficial thing is to help humanity as much as possible, to create beauty, to create kindness, to create cooperation, things like that. If you're incentivized to create those systems, then everything changes. And 100 years from now, all those glowing utopias that people envision for the future can suddenly manifest. If you keep going on a fiat cancer standard, it just degrades to war and destruction. It has no other path to go. These ideas that they're pushing right now because they're incentivized to follow things like unleashed AI and unleashed electrical power and all this kind of shit, like those things will inevitably cascade into entropy and destruction. So yeah, Bitcoin fixes it.
Bitcoin fixes this, folks.
Bigger layer than many are thinking about. We'll see if I can get this across in my book. Find out in a couple of weeks. It's almost done. So
I'm excited to read it. A lot of hard work put into that.
Fuck yeah, 6 months now.
Wow. But you're getting close.
Very close.
Feeling close.
I'm super close. I'm
cool.
At the tail end of part 4. I got about half of part 4 done right now. The bibliography, here's an AI thing. That helped me with my bibliography.
I use AI for stuff.
Well, it's an LLM, so we'll see. But anyway.
Bitcoin is hope.
Bitcoin is hope.
I feel optimistic.
I'm always optimistic.
Yeah, I feel good about it. I'm excited.
Yeah, so exciting times. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Enjoy.